some historians trace the widespread usage of the term country music to the cultural politics of the late 1940s and early 50s, when the House Un-American Activities Committee was investigating and questioning musicians like Pete Seeger. And in this climate, the word folk kind of became a four-letter word for the music industry that Flatt and Scruggs and Bill Monroe were participating in. So that, some people say that very quickly the term folk dropped out of usage and country and western was adopted as a term to use instead. The country music industry that was growing up in that same period of time was still in transition, even as more high-profile artists like Hank Williams and Eddie Arnold were making pop crossover hits. There was something new brewing in studios in Memphis, like at Sun Records, where Elvis and Johnny Cash were bringing rockabilly sounds to rural audiences, heralding the advent of rock and roll. Rosenberg argues that the diversity of musicians imitating Bill Monroe's music indicates that they were not just copying his sound, but were innovating within a genre that in some ways was still searching for a name in the late 40s and early 1950s. But we have Flatt and Scruggs adding the dobro, echoing the electric steel guitar that was popular in the Nashville sounding country, but in an acoustic form in their band. Don Reno's guitar-influenced banjo playing is a new voice for that instrument. Jesse McReynolds adapts the triplet rolls of Scruggs-style banjo picking and creates his own cross-picking style on the mandolin. And even Bill Monroe is searching for a new sound, adding double and triple fiddles to his recordings in the early 1950s. To the media for this week, think about the kinds of songs that these artists are recording. Remember back to The Medicine Show and Cleo Davis's interviews about the early Monroe show, that it included solos, duets, comedy sketches, these different elements that made up the whole show. In these recordings, we can see how bands were transforming that older model into records that would sell in the mid-century music industry. From Flatt and Scruggs, we have God Loves His Children, a gospel tune that's upbeat, optimistic. We also have Pike County Breakdown, a breakdown, of course, but featuring the 5-string banjo. This label featuring 5-string banjo, Rosenberg tells us, was an important label, a way of categorizing this kind of music. So that would have been prominent for Flatt and Scruggs. We have I'll Never Love Another, a solo sentimental song, more in a pop vein. If you listen to the words, there's nothing in the song that signals that you're in a rural environment or the mountains or anywhere else. It could be happening in a city. This is the kind of song that would work well in the hit star system. It's very adaptable to different situations. Then we have My Cabin in Caroline, which is in the same vein of a solo, poppy kind of song. But while it sounds like those songs, the lyrics link it much more to rural country situations. And Down the Road is a much more country or countrified feel-good song. This is kind of a comic song, and we can see that the bassist comedy figure was still around in the 40s and 50s, still playing a role as part of the show in these bands. From Monroe, we have Uncle Pen, a very personal, historical, sentimental song. We also have In Despair, which is another very personal song about heartbreak, something very much from Bill Monroe's own experiences. Then we also have Put My Little Shoes Away, a sentimental older song, but not a love ballad. It's a dying child ballad, an older form of sentimental song. And of course we have Rawhide, which Monroe records, and he includes the 5-string banjo, but this recording is much more about the mandolin, so he's sure to feature himself alongside the 5-string banjo. And then we have the Kentucky Waltz, which Monroe records again in 1951. And in the sidebar, you can read more about the situation that sparked that recording session and think some about the context of the commercial sounds that were shaping country music in the 1950s.